Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. What a beautiful celebration this is for us to be able to share together this afternoon. Thank you to all of you, especially those of you who have come from a long ways to be able to help us celebrate today. My name is Lynette Marshall, and I have the privilege of serving as the president of the University of Iowa Foundation. And I'm honored to be able to be here today as part of this recognition for the Department of Ophthalmology and Visual Sciences. Today, we mark the establishment and the awarding of the Robert C. Watzke, MD, Professorship in Retina Research. Now, for many of you, perhaps this is your first investiture. Investitures are very special in the life of a university. The medallion that our recipient will receive today represents a legacy of excellence at the University of Iowa, Roy J. and Lucille A. Carver College of Medicine. Named faculty positions, like this one, are made possible, of course, through generous private support. And donations have always been vital to the university, but perhaps more so now than ever, at a time when the university's overall resources depend more than ever on private support from alumni and friends. Today we celebrate Dr. Michael Abràmoff, the recipient of this prestigious position. I would like to congratulate him and extend a warm welcome to his family members who are with us today. And I'm also delighted to welcome Dr. Robert Watzke. The creation of this professorship is a tribute to Dr. Watzke and the legacy of excellence that he has within this department and beyond. We are grateful to his colleagues and friends who established this professorship in his honor, and we're pleased to welcome him here today. Congratulations. We, of course, have several special university leaders here today. Bruce Harold, President of the University of Iowa, Dr. Jean Robillard, Vice President for Medical Affairs and Dean of the Carver College of Medicine, Dr. Keith Carter, the Lillian C. O'Brien, and Dr. C.S. O'Brien, Chair in Ophthalmology. We're happy to have each of you here as well. Thank you. It's been a special couple of days for alumni of ophthalmology. We're especially pleased to be able to welcome Dr. Bruce Spivey here as well. Dr. Spivey is a University of Iowa alumnus, grew up in Cedar Rapids, just north of here. He's a former faculty member in the University of Iowa Department of Ophthalmology and Visual Sciences. He's currently chairman of the Pacific Vision Foundation in San Francisco. Welcome back. We're happy to have you home. Endowed professorships help the university recognize our most distinguished faculty, and today's recipient, Dr. Abràmoff, is of course in very good company. Today he joins a remarkable 18 colleagues in his department who also hold named faculty positions. I would like to ask all of the faculty members who are here who hold a named position in the Department of Ophthalmology to please stand and allow us to recognize you. Please stay standing for just a moment. Any other faculty from the Carver College of Medicine who are holders of named professorships or endowed chairs, please join them. Thank you very much. We have some additional folks with us. Congratulations. It's a pleasure and honor to be with you today. I want to again thank the generous donors who helped establish this Robert C. Watzke Professorship in Retinal Research, as well as the many donors who have created faculty positions in the Carver College of Medicine. By supporting the work of our top scholars, donors help us assure that we can provide a world-class education for physicians as well as leading-edge care for our patients. And now it's my pleasure to introduce University of Iowa President Bruce Harold, who will lead our academic ceremony today. Bruce?
Thank you, Lynette. Thank you, Lynette. It's a real pleasure to be here with all of you today. I've just came off a series of meetings with our community and the Board of Regents, and I was thinking about today, I thought I'd just mention, many of you probably know this, but since day one, I've been talking about excellence and the importance of excellence, of whatever we touch, we need to touch with excellence. And I can't think of a better way to put a touchstone on that point than what we're going to do here today. It's a remarkable journey that many of you have been on. But you know, I've also been talking a lot about the economic issues that public research institutions like ours are facing. And the reason I talk about excellence is I think that's a way out of a lot of these issues. The better we are, the more likely it is we're going to survive those headwinds that are coming at us. And you know, it's not just about money though. It's also about recognition. And as faculty go through their careers, as many of you know, there are various stages. There's an assistant, an associate, and then a full professorship. And then as people get into their full tenured programs of either teaching and or research and scholarship and mentoring, even at that stage, we need a way of recognizing those that are truly excellent in their particular areas. And academia has decided, I think many years ago very appropriately, to actually take it another step. And that's what today is all about. It's not just about the financial endowment, but it's also about the recognition of excellence in the areas of teaching and scholarship. And therefore, we've created this notion of an endowed chair. And I think it's a wonderful legacy, and I love the fact that we actually, some of us, although it's 93 degrees today outside, I think it's a wonderful touch that we decide to put on our robes and bring out our medallions and really put a special moment around this. This department that we're going to be focusing on, and the gentleman today that we're going to be picking on, is actually a remarkable department. I actually, when I go out and talk publicly about the university, I talk about a lot of things that are of excellence, and then I get to our medical college and I talk about all the departments with O's. And this is the big O in many ways. Don't tell the other O's that I've said that, please. Keep that among us. But this is just remarkable that what you've done over not only the years but the decades in the creation of this. Dr. Spivey and I were talking earlier, and he was describing for me the first department head in 1957, if I remember. 1927, thank you. Hugely different, and now I even have more, almost centuries in this discussion. So it's been so long that this organization has been driving itself towards the top. It's now clearly in those ranks. So I want to thank all of you that are part of it, and it's really what makes, in many ways, so much easier for me to be able to point to groups like this to say to others, you can do it too. Get out there. But it doesn't happen without leadership. And we're going to have a wonderful moment to celebrate some of those leaders here today. Several have joined us, several will speak. I will introduce them as we go, but let's just remember these moments of excellence and honors like this don't come easily. There's a lot of hard work and a lot of hours, not only for the individual that we're going to celebrate today, but also by those that have helped him get here. So with that, I'd like to thank Dr. Spivey. I'd also very, very much like to name or mention the person who is really here and responsible in many ways for this entire endowed position, Dr. Robert C. Watzke. And he's going to also make some comments today. And it's remarkable what you've done. You honor us by your presence. You honor us by helping us make and create this position. This is a special moment, and it will live forever among us. Something we don't do lightly. You haven't given it lightly. Both of you have really contributed immensely to why we're here. With that, I would also like to begin, or maybe continue, Lynette's congratulations of Michael on a well-earned endowed position. I would like to turn it over for a moment to good friend Dr. Robillard, come on up, Vice President of Medical Affairs and Dean of the Carver College of Medicine, to also provide a few remarks and his thoughts. Thank you, Sean.
Well, thank you, President Harold, and I'm too also quite delighted today to have this really unique opportunity to congratulate Dr. Abràmoff on his appointment as the new Robert C. Watzke Professor of Retinal Research, and recognize Dr. Watzke, for whom this endowed position was named. And the dedication that both of these men have to medicine at Iowa is just outstanding. As you heard from both Lynette and President Harold, the passion for both of these men have for research is really inspiring. Endowed professorship like this one provide us a way to honor our most outstanding faculty, those who, like Dr. Abràmoff and Watzke, have made major contribution in their field and have earned widespread recognition for excellence in teaching, research, and clinical care. This also provide us a chance to recognize those who give in this spirit. And I would like to personally thank all the donors here today for their overwhelming generosity. The formation of this endowed position has been a collaborative effort, and we are really thankful for everyone's support. Indeed, it is impossible to overstate the importance of private support in helping advance our vital missions. Without question, endowed positions strengthen our college as a whole and are vital to the departments in which they reside. It is a visionary benefactor like you, Dr. Watzke, who makes celebration like this today and the resultant medical breakthrough of tomorrow possible. And really, we want to thank you. Again, thank you for all of us for joining us today. And I would like now to introduce Dr. Keith Carter, one of my really esteemed colleagues who will say also a few words. Keith.
Good afternoon. First of all, we cannot thank you enough, so you're going to hear a lot of thank yous. And I want to thank everyone for coming. I want to thank everybody who donated to the Watzke Fund. I want to thank Dr. Watzke for taking the time to come back and be here today. And I want to thank Dr. Spivey for your work in getting all the alums that probably wouldn't have responded to me to come back today. But today is about Dr. Abràmoff. And Michael, the department is very happy and honored today that you're being recognized. You came here, if I get it right, in 2003 as a research fellow. And I think the rumblings were in the air that we had to see what we could do to keep you around. We were successful in keeping you around, and I think we all benefited for being associated with you. For those of you that don't know, Dr. Abràmoff is a distinguished clinician, educator, and especially a distinguished researcher. He is doing things, imaging of the eye, that a lot of people are envious, and he has over 10 patents that protect his work. And one of the areas that I relate to is his work in diabetes. And as you know, the epidemic of diabetes is upon us, and there are not enough eye care providers to do diabetic retinal exams in this country. But Michael has developed a computer analysis program where he can look at fundus photos and screen them as well, if not better, than retina specialists. And that is really going to be a impact on the public health of the United States, and we will owe that to you, Michael. And I want to congratulate you on that. Mike also has, in his spare time, he's produced about 225 publications, and he's probably have a few more patents. But the one thing that my role in Michael's success is this, it's very simple. Michael really doesn't get into policy or procedures or rules. He's a doer, he's a thinker. My job is to make sure all the rules are followed for Michael. That's my role. So that's what I do. I'm out in front blocking for Michael to keep him out of trouble. And so far we've been very successful. We work very well. I want to congratulate you, Michael. So now we're going to move into the medallion part of the ceremony. And again, it wouldn't be possible without the donations that we received. And I want to have President Harold come back up to preside over the ceremony.
Would you mind joining me here? Dr. Abràmoff. Would you like to join us? I think you're supposed to take that off. So we can give it to you again.
It's a difficult.
No, you got, no, okay, fine. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. We would like now to bestow this medallion on Dr. Michael Abràmoff, the Robert C. Watzke, MD, Professor in Retina Research. Would you care to give us a few of your thoughts on today's incredible moment? Please, come take a photo.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I was told to press show and then it would all happen.
There you go.
Here we go. So I have a few conflicts of interest to report, that's why I'm showing this slide. But it's not going. Sorry, wrong mouse. Okay. So first of all, I would like to spend only a few words on Bob Watzke. I've known him, and when I ask people around me about him, and the people I admire most, my mentors here, my guiding lights here in the faculty, what they say about you is that you're like a father to them, you were like a father to them, you were their primary mentor, and they have nothing but good things to say about you. Again, I haven't known you since yesterday night, but the fact that the people I admire most say these things about you means that you're sort of squared, amazing mentor. So thank you for that. And like I said, I don't want to give personal anecdotes about you because they wouldn't be mine, so I decided not to do that. However, I want to give two links. The first one was when I was a resident in the Netherlands in 1995, and I just started my first rotation. The first thing that I heard was the Watzke sign. So here I was, just out of internships. I learned a little bit about interactive ophthalmoscopy, but this Watzke sign was new to me. So the first name of anyone in ophthalmology was Watzke, and so I remember that to this day. And the other thing, which will, it's sort of a link between us, is you were central to the diabetic retinopathy study, the first major study of diabetic retinopathy. And you can see, for example, this paper is the sixth paper in 1981, so this is a long time ago. And what you were central in is publishing these papers, doing the whole research, but one of the things that remains is the slides that you see here. And these slides are in my office, and these slides are being digitized, and we use these today and in the future to make algorithms that read these images even better. So we already know how to do it, but we'll make them even better thanks to you and thanks to your role in this. So you wouldn't expect that, 30, 40 years later, we'll still be using those slides. So let me talk, since we're talking about diabetes and diabetic retinopathy, I will do things to link this to the donors, to you and to the donors who made this professorship possible. So one thing I want to talk a little bit about is how science works, and the other I want to talk a little bit about is how you can bring this science to the patients. So it's a very short vignette. I need about 8 minutes or so, 7 minutes. So in 1688 in Amsterdam, which I happen to know and where I used to live, a textbook of anatomy came out by Steve Blankard, and it was in Latin. And so I happened to read Latin, and what it said on page 289 was Virgo aliquot ante obitum annus diabete correpta sunt. Paucus ante mortem diabus amorasi oculurum afficatur, adiot ut solis aut candelae lumen non admine verterret. And what this means, if I translate it, is a young girl suffered from diabetes for almost a year. Before her death, she suffered from blindness in both eyes, and she could see the light of neither sun nor candle. And this is the first time anyone ever mentioned that the link between diabetes and visual loss and blindness. So before, the Greeks even knew about diabetes as a disease, but they didn't know that it could blind you. And so this is the first description. And I want to get back to this How do I get back? Okay, so I wanted to mention about this picture that is in the book, that it was at that time bedside to bench. So everyone is now talking about bench to bedside, right? You move your science to the patient at the bedside. But here you can see how in these anatomic laboratories, they were waiting for the patients to die. So you see a patient at the first red arrow on the right, and then this patient had diabetes, so that's why looking at the urine, even though they didn't know exactly what was going on. But as soon as you were dead, or a little bit before it even, you ended up on the table and it would cut you open. And so what then happened was mortua crania aperto insignis vesica aquaso inventa est. And again translated, her skull was opened and it was still warm, and we discovered a fluid-filled region which prevented the light from entering the optic nerve, because at that moment we still thought that light went through the optic nerve into the back of the brain to be seen, to perceived. So this was the first mention. So now people had done research about visual loss in diabetes and whether it was vascular or neural. And Laber, well known to all of us, wrote a textbook in 1875 about diabetes in the eye. At the same year, in 1875, Mr. Howship Dickinson in London wrote a textbook on diseases of the kidney. And you would think, what has the kidney to do with this? And so this is in German, which I happen to read. And it says, was liegt näher als die Vermutung, dass ähnliche Prozesse Herde von kapillären Blutungen, wie sie in der Netzhaut nach Analogie der Histologie genau erforschten Befunde bei Mortis Brighty angenehm. And what this means in translation, if what is more likely than that these similar processes, capillary hemorrhages and vessel changes, affected nerve cells in the retina and the nervous system. So he saw clearly vascular changes come first, and then the nervous system and the retina are damaged later. However, Dickinson, the same year, was saying they are such indeed as to link symptoms with lesions and to give diabetes a definite place among diseases of the nervous system. So then his entire book was about diabetes as a nervous disease, later causing all these other changes. Well, it's called publish and perish. So Dickinson, everyone forgot about this, and then Mackenzie in 1879 cited both Dickinson and Laber, and he said, to my mind, all of this, the changes in the nervous system and those in the retina and the other organs are due to an altered condition of the blood and the blood vessels. And from then on, everyone in diabetic retinopathy has been citing Mackenzie. Friedenwald, 1950, Kogan, 1961, all the main authors of diabetic retinopathy, both in animal models and in humans, cite Mackenzie, and no one ever thought again of Dickinson. And so this year, Dr. Sohn, who's in the audience, and me published this paper on showing essentially that diabetes damages the retinal first after all. So the damage in the nerve cells comes first, and then the vascular changes happen later. Whether they cause it, we don't know yet. We're trying to find out that now. But the point is that 150 years later, everything can change. And what I wanted to say is, how can we do this? Well, Keith already mentioned it. What I do is really develop computer algorithms to analyze retinal images. So what we see as retinal doctors, I analyze and then quantify, and I'm showing you some example of this, how this works. It's much too much. It's almost 250 papers. So I'm not going into that, but it's sort of a colorful representation of all these things that you can measure and quantify in the retina. And that made possible this paper where we showed, like I said, that the nerve damage comes first. So this has lessons for this professorship as I see it. I think it will be science that is settled until it's not, and we'll be doing a lot of that. So there will be no safe spaces here. It will really be science that may challenge existing paradigms, and hopefully that's better for patients. And I say hopefully, because this will do wonders for my H-index. And if you don't know what an H-index is, it's sort of a combination of citations and publications, the number of citations and publications, and it's really a metric for scientific productivity that we as scientists are judged upon. I consider myself a physician first and then a scientist, so I think there should be something, I'm not saying it should be exactly what I say, a P-index, which is related to how important it was for patients, divided by the number of patients, because obviously if you do something for a less prevalent disease, you can still make very important contributions. And so I'm not saying it's about the number of patients to touch, there's this ratio, just so I don't get comments afterwards. And so the other thing is really impacting patients, and how do you do that? Do you just publish papers and then it happens, like this PNES paper I was mentioning a few slides ago? So we published it this year. Does it affect anyone in clinical practice? No. Sometimes, like with Dr. Watzke's studies on the DRS, it really impacted clinical care very quickly. But those days are over, I think. And so how do you bring something from science to the patient? Well, let me give you an personal example. Different subject, having to do with diabetic retinopathy. In 1989, I started studying machine learning using artificial neural networks, like mimicking the brain in a computer. And I went to slide too far, sorry. I published a paper in 1991, and here's me presenting that to a skeptical audience. And that hasn't changed much. And so in 2000, I was just in fellowship, and I did my first paper on screening for diabetic retinopathy lesions and detecting these with a computer. And so, well, no patient was touched by this, no one picked it up, because I thought, well, you do a few publications that it can be done, because no one knew at the time it could be done, and then everything will change. That didn't happen. So I did many more papers, nothing changed. From 2000 on, I started publishing real, clinical studies and clinical trials in actual patient populations. Many more papers, nothing changed in clinical practice. So clearly it's not enough to publish papers. So I thought maybe you need to do patents, because then patents and a company will pick it up and they will commercialize it and it will happen. Well, I did, it's more than this, but on the retinopathy it's like 7 patents. There's some on cameras, so I won't go into that. But there's at least 7 patents on this subject. Nothing happened. So what you need to do is found this company, and I'm really proud to bring this up. So this is IDX, with a couple of spouses there, but this is IDX, the company here in Iowa City, and we founded that to commercialize these inventions and these publications and this science. And I will show you a demo because it's so cool. So this is how it works. If the video comes up, because it worked this morning. No video? Oh, here we go. So this is not FDA approved. It's used in Europe, but it's not FDA approved. But it just shows you how this is going to work and what the future of at least the retinal exam for diabetic retinopathy is. So here's a patient. This camera is fully automatic, so you press a few buttons on the screen and it starts to find the pupil and the eye and does the protocol as it should, as you can see here. So there's minimal interaction, so you don't need certified ophthalmic photographers. You can just do someone who taught a course for 2 hours. So look how this robotic camera finds the other eye, zooms in, focuses, everything is automatic. You just need to press the start button to take the picture. And then the big thing comes where we select these images, we run the algorithm, and it's faster now, it's less than 90, it's more like 60 seconds. So in a few seconds we speeded this up. It's a diagnosis. So this can be diabetic retinopathy detected or no diabetic retinopathy present, which is all you need for a diabetic retinopathy exam. So these are the different outputs that it can get. So this is happening now. So it's a first, right? I mean, no one has ever done these automated algorithms, which essentially replace what a dilated eye exam does for screening for diabetic retinopathy. But one day, and hopefully soon, the FDA will approve this, and then we'll be seeing it in clinical practice. But again, the FDA has not approved this. So this is what it takes, and we're not even there yet because the FDA has not approved it yet. What it takes to move something from science to actual where it touches patients. So it's a lot of time, it's a lot of effort, it's a lot of people. I could never do this on my own, ever. There's so many people in IDX and around it. And so I want to say that if the Robert Watzke Professorship for me was a success, my P index should be increased faster than my H index. So it's great if I do more papers and more scientific papers, and I think it's really important. But if it didn't affect patients, I don't think I was a good candidate for the professorship. So with this said, so you have you can judge me now on a metric, and I like that. I like to be judged on metrics, and I think that's good. But more importantly, I want to thank everyone for this great honor, specifically Keith, who made this happen, Ed, who helped a lot with this, Bob Watzke for being here, and Bruce Pfeiffer for saying a few words about later after me. For everyone in the faculty, there's always a friend and colleagues, and they're so helpful. It's such an amazing, I love this place, I have to say, I love this place. Everyone in the staff, too many people to mention, the people in IDX, of course. I thank you again. Thanks so much.
Okay, It's my honor now to introduce our next speaker, who has really given his life to education in ophthalmology. He was our first executive VP for the American Academy of Ophthalmology, which is our national organization. In a few years, he went over to Chicago, ran a medical center in Northwestern, then he dropped into New York, ran Columbia's Medical Center. Then they pulled him back to San Francisco, where he's running things there. So in his busy time, we were able to get him back to Iowa for this weekend. I'm quite sure he's flying off to somewhere in Europe tomorrow. But Bruce, it's been an honor to get to know you better, and thank you for everything you do, and come on up and say a few words.
There can't be too many thank yous to go around, but I'll begin with thank you, Keith. This is to you, Bob. It's my great honor to present a superb clinician, a dedicated and tenacious teacher and researcher, and, most importantly, a fine human. I can testify to these attributes, having been taught by Bob during my residency and having the opportunity to serve with him on the faculty here. Bob and his colleague Ed Ferguson were solely responsible for me not being a retinal specialist. At the time of my training, 5-hour retinal surgeries were common, and that exceeded my attention span of 15 minutes by an incomprehensible amount. So Bob, you did me a favor in a way. You got me into education. Bob's tolerant, kind, and a mentor to all who trained under him. Bob grew up in Madison, Wisconsin, and received his medical school and residency training in Madison. He originally thought he wanted to be a neuro-ophthalmologist. And while at Harvard, he realized that there's a new type of retinal surgery, retinal detachment surgery, and it was far more of interest to him than neuro-ophthalmology. Bob joined the faculty here in 1958 and trained 171 residents and 23 fellows prior to leaving for Oregon in 1984. An overt tribute to Bob, as you've already heard, is that many of these trainees, who many of us came back to see Bob and have contributed to this professorship. Bob was a member of all the highest level retinal societies and president of the Macula Society. Bobby had a highly productive academic career, publishing the first of his 118 papers in 1958 and the most recent in 2013. There are many more achievements and comments which I will not mention, but I do know that his wife Lonnie and his 5 children were the star in his many-starred crown. President Harold and Vice President Robillard, I present to you Robert C. Watzke.
Dr. Watzke, it gives me, all of us, great pleasure to honor what you started so many years ago and what you're continuing here today. Thank you very much.
It's awfully heavy.
You'll wear
Not as heavy as yours, though.
You'll wear it well. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you. Well, I've never been so praised in my life. And I thank all of you for your contributions. I particularly want to thank the fellows and residents over all these years for, in spite of listening to my jokes for 3 years at a time, they still are able to contribute or at least show up and listen to some more. Maybe some of you older residents and fellows remember that when we would do a scleral buckle and drain fluid from under the retina through a sclerotomy, I used to have everyone be very quiet and tell the first-year residents and the new nurses, if you're very quiet, when the retina goes flat, you can hear it. And many of them believed it and actually did hear it. But I also have to tell you in truth that I wasn't always so kind. And I'll throw this one-liner out for some of the younger staff to use every now and then. When they're helping a resident do one of his first procedures, you kind of watch him for a while and then you say, are you left-handed or right-handed? So I also, just think of it, 1958. It's incredible. I still do a little teaching, and I have a fundus photo that was taken here with an old fundus camera, Zeiss fundus camera, with carbon electrodes for the light source that was taken in 1961. It's in glass and has a little silver frame. And I showed this to the first-year residents at Oregon to show them this is the earliest fundus photo you'll ever see. So I wanted to thank all of you for this great honor. It's given me an excuse to come back and see you all again, and I really appreciate it. And I also want to emphasize the difference between a professorship that one could obtain in 1958 and the professorship that Mike is receiving now. When you look at the amount of background and study and technology that is required for a similar professorship in 2016. So Mike, Godspeed. I know you'll do a great job, and thank you all.
Dr. Watzke, I want you to know that I had met you before and neither one of us knew it. On Monday, Dr. Abràmoff and I were at the FDA meeting with the Ophthalmology division of the FDA. I mentioned to them the ceremony that was occurring here today, and each and every one of them either knew you or knew of you. That speaks to the kind of impressive impact you've had on this profession during your career. Today is a great honor for both you and Michael. And let me start with Michael first. Michael is a voracious seeker of new knowledge and research, as evidenced by the accurate count is 17 patents with his name on it. 9 have been issued, 8 are in process. Past is prologue for Dr. Michael Abràmoff. You will see many more that he will create because of his passion for research. But what differentiates Mike Abràmoff is not just the search for new knowledge, new capability to support medicine and ophthalmology in particular, but his P index, which is to help patients. And so he, as he showed in his presentation, just creating the knowledge was not good enough for him. He wanted to positively impact medicine, ophthalmology, and patients. Over 10 years ago, he founded a company founder. He serves today as president of it. And that company he called IDX. And his notion was, how do you take machine learning today, think of artificial intelligence, and use that to be able to interpret quite accurately fundus photographs? The reason we were in meeting with the FDA is at the end of that meeting, a long journey ended and a new one began. We have now initiated the definitive pivotal trial for the ability to have such an intelligent algorithm interpret diabetic retinopathy disease in fundus photographs in the primary care setting. Why is that important? There's 30 million diagnosed diabetics in this country today. There's 30 million more pre-diabetic. The numbers are staggering and scary. There's not enough ophthalmologists to take care of screening all of these people, which is required on an annual basis. In fact, only about 50% are being screened. The notion of bringing this capability to primary care will allow to move that screening percentage to very close to 100%, if not 100%. Now, for all the ophthalmologists in the audience, this is really good news, because the 4 million in any given year diabetics that actually have a treatable level of the disease are the ones that are going to be filling up your waiting room. These are ones that you have therapies and treatments for to help save their vision and prevent them from going blind. And those are the patients that you can really help. 4 million a year, 22,000 ophthalmologists in this country, 2,000 retina specialists. That's the staggering mountain that has to be climbed. Michael's not stopping there. Back in that room is that whole team of IDX people. He's put together a fantastic group of employees. And right behind the diabetic retinopathy screening with the machine learning artificial intelligent algorithms comes the same capability for glaucoma, age-related macular degeneration, senile dementia, and how about this one? We will have at IDX to put with the ability to put the most capable primary care diagnostic tool screener for cardiovascular and stroke risk. That's the whole flow that's happening. So, Dr. Watzke, you and Michael have every reason to be massively proud. And I think the one that may be most important is that virtually all of these things I've mentioned, and many that we have yet to bring into medicine that Michael will be the creator of, they will, in this generation and future generations, carry both of your names. Congratulations.
Thank you, Gary. Gary Siemens, CEO of IDX, member of the Wynn Institute for Vision Research Board, and member of the University of Iowa Foundation Board. Thank you. We are grateful. Congratulations, Dr. Abràmoff. Thank you so much, Dr. Watzke, for allowing us to honor you in this way. This concludes our ceremony today. Thank you very much.